Before we continue on our series of Are You Following Christ or Are You Carrying Stones, I highly encourage you to watch this series with an open heart, because there's already a lot of angry people coming in, and it's very odd that I'm getting so much backlash for literally reading scripture. Now, if you've personally been attacked by people using the words of Leviticus against you while seemingly ignoring the rest, definitely tune in today. But before we begin, why don't we comment below, do all of the laws in Leviticus apply? People love to bring up Leviticus when they want to condemn LGBTQ people. But Leviticus is not one isolated verse floating in space. It is part of a larger law code given to the ancient Israelites. It includes law about food, fabric, crops, sacrifice, purity, Sabbath, sexuality, and punishment. It's a lot. So the real question is not, does Leviticus say things? Because of course it does. The real question is, are Christians today bound to the entire Mosaic Law? Because it seems like most Christians are living as if they're not, and I kind of wonder why that seems to matter. Leviticus forbids certain foods, mixed fabrics, it gives structure around rules for purity, sacrifice, and the Sabbath, and yes, it does include severe punishments, but most Christians today eat shellfish. They wear blended fabrics, they work on the Sabbath, they do not offer animal sacrifices, they do not stone adulterers. So when someone grabs one verse and ignores the rest, they need to explain the filter, not just their favorite condemnation. And the thing is, this is not a new argument. The early church has had a lot of fights about this for a long time. In Acts 15, Gentiles were coming into the Jesus movement. Some believers said they had to be circumcised and commanded to keep the law of Moses, so the apostles and elders gathered in Jerusalem. Peter said God had already accepted the Gentiles by faith. Then he asked why they would put a yoke on their necks that even their ancestors could not bear. And that word matters. A yoke. It means a burden or a religious weight. Peter did not say, make them hold all the laws of Leviticus true. He said, this is not their burden to bear. Then James gives the decision. Acts 15:19 says, trouble not them, meaning do not burden the Gentiles who are turning to God. The council gives a few instructions, yes, but they do not place the full Mosaic Law on Gentile believers. They do not say everyone must keep Leviticus as a legal code forever. They say, do not trouble them, do not place that yoke on them. So no, the Old Testament was not erased, but the new covenant replaced the old. Jesus says in Matthew 5, I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. But fulfill does not mean copy and paste forever. Fulfill means to bring to completion. Hebrews says the new covenant made the first one old. Galatians says the law was a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ, but after faith came, we are no longer under that schoolmaster. So the Old Testament remains sacred, but Christians are not under the Mosaic Law the same way the ancient Israelites were. So when people use Leviticus against others, they need to be honest with how they got there. Why that verse? Why not food laws, fabric laws, sacrifice laws? What about death penalties? Why does Leviticus become binding when the topic is queer people, but suddenly becomes fulfilled, cultural, symbolic, or outdated when it costs them something? That is not a small question. That's the whole question. Because selective obedience is not faithfulness, it's convenience. And scripture becomes dangerous when people use the parts that condemn someone else while ignoring the parts that would challenge themselves. Isn't there another scripture about eyes and planks? So, before you decide to use Leviticus as a weapon, why don't you give us your filter first? Because, as they say, Jesus came to fulfill the law, but was he encouraging us to throw stones or to put them down? So, make sure you're following along for part 3, because we're going to talk about what Jesus said the entire law hangs on. Spoiler alert, it was love. So comment below, are you following Christ? Or are you just carrying stones?